Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Practical Pedagogy, which discusses brain-based strategies for immediate classroom implementation. We are glad to have you joining us for the Niswonger Remote Learning Series. Sessions will provide educators opportunities to extend and refine their practices engaging students in remote and/or online learning. We will showcase high-impact practices, model some strategies, share resources, and highlight ways to facilitate successful remote learning. Although you will see many successful strategies are also applicable to the classroom itself. My name is Tracy Ballou, and co-presenting with me is Candace Herman. Practical Pedagogy. Within this learning series, we address research on the brain that informs our classroom instruction, research that lends itself to the strategies we cover within these mini sessions. And so today's mini session is, we are all in this together, and that's apropos more than ever, connecting teacher material to student mastery by way of peer interaction. And there will be a lot of activities that you can utilize for remote or hybrid learning. So this is just a Zoom protocol reminder. If you would, mute your mic until you're ready to respond or speak. Also, you'll find your you can move your little speaker boxes around so you can see the screen as you need to. Please find the chat bar in the bottom. If you hover over the bottom, the little toolbar will come up. Please find the chat option because we will ask folks for responses later. If you wouldn't mind, try out the chat and tell us if you teach a certain content area, if you are primary grades, your grade and your subject matter, that will help us a lot. So this is Candace and myself, and we are just happy that you're with us, and we hope that you all have had a good first couple days of the week, and we're just happy to be with you for the next little while talking about collaboration. If you would, the same website that you accessed in order to get to this webinar is also the same website where you will be able to view materials. You'll be able to see a recording of the webinar itself and also view our slideshow. Or you can use the QR code here and it'll take you straight to that page right now. And welcome, Gwen. And so that's the way you can view the materials even after we are finished today. So our goals for our session today encompass exploring the brain science that supports collaboration, and then experiencing as ourselves, as if we were the students, virtual collaborative activities. And also selecting some collaborative strategies that are used to support students' active engagement with peers, content, and concepts. So this is just an overview of our 4 sessions. This is the third of 4 mini sessions. So we've talked about chunking, we've talked about visuals, and today we're going to talk about collaboration. If you're with us next week, we will talk about movement in the classroom and or in the remote setting. But basically, brain-based learning refers to those teaching methods and lesson designs or school programs that are based on the latest scientific research about how our brain works, including such factors as development, socio-emotional factors, cognitive development, emotion. So as children grow and mature, so does the science change. And so this is just a small delve into a mini session, and we will later have a deep dive. So again, we appreciate you being with us, and I'm going to turn it over to Candace to get us started.
Thank you, Tracy. So as we begin this mini session on collaboration, we recognize that our perception of digital collaboration in particular, that greatly impacts our implementation. So first off, we're going to consider what words or phrases we associate with digital collaboration. And Tracy, are you able to drop our Answer Garden link for us in the chat?
Got it.
Thank you so much. We will go there in just a moment, and I'll take you there as well on our screen. And we're simply going to answer this question. So you should be able to see our link for Answer Garden. And so you see the question at the top. what words or phrases do you associate with digital collaboration? And so once you're able to follow that link that Tracy's dropping for you all in chat, you should be able to go to this site and just live type in your responses. And so I'll get us started. And so hopefully your computer loads a little bit faster than mine is, but you should be able to see responses. There we go. Okay, so far I'm seeing them, and I probably need to just refresh periodically, but so far I'm seeing groups, together. Some other things that maybe that I've heard from some of the teachers that I'm working with, just to keep it real here, a little bit. Sometimes collaboration, like again, we'll just keep it real for just a minute, like on that team rubric. So we plop kids into groups sometimes. And, you know, we do that because maybe it's out of a sense of compliance, or maybe it's because we do know that research supports that. But in any case, that still can create a bit of anxiety. You know, we're trying something that is new for us. We don't feel like an expert, and that can make us feel vulnerable sometimes. So yeah, I think that this will work. Groups together. What we wanted to do as we progress forward, I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to our slides just so we can all see the same slides together, but you still of course have access to that answer garden, and that tool that we'll have today are going to be available to you. Tracy, did you want to jump in there?
You have a few more responses. Somebody put breakout groups, somebody put group chats. So yeah, you have a few more responses, and those are all things we think of with collaboration. I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thanks. And probably something I should have mentioned this with answer garden. This is kind of like you might have like a Wordle type scenario by the time you end up with it. Like if the more people respond with the same response, like the larger the image will be. So like if you had, you know, a group of 22 kids and like, I don't know, 10 of them responded with chat, you might have chat really big. So it might end up looking, you know, something like this if you have like a larger session. We have a bit of an more intimate group here with us today, and that's fine too. But I just wanted to show you an example of what it could look like with a larger group. And so for our purposes today, excuse me, what we would want to do is we want to think about what words or phrases appear the most. So I'll revisit that. So, and Tracy, tell me if I'm missing anything here. I see breakout, groups, chat, together. Yeah, I see group or groups. Fear, yes, thank you for whoever was just like really honest about this. And so, like I said, if we have a larger group like that, that size of the word or phrasing will be expanded for us. And so what we would do is we would just reflect on this and think about, based on the words or the phrases that we see, what might that reflect about the next steps that we have? So what might our next steps be based upon what we see? So are we feeling confident moving forward? We feel like we have kind of pretty good grasp on it. Do we need to seek out a collaborative teaching partner if we are feeling fairly confident, or maybe we need to reach out to those that don't feel super confident in that digital environment? But in general, we want to make sure that we're keeping this manageable, effective, and engaging. So the answer garden activity, especially again, if you have a full class and several responses, it does mimic peer validation, with dopamine being released from the brain when a participant sees that his or her response is mirrored or valued by others. And so the same brain circuits that are activated even by eating chocolate and winning the money are activated when teenagers see a large number of likes on their own photos or the photos of their peers in a social network. And that's according to a study that we can link for you as well, where they scan teenage brains while they use social media. Can you like even imagine what that study even looked like? But as educators, we can capitalize on this peer validation by offering safe, supported opportunities for classroom collaboration. So another collaborative tool, Jamboard, allows students to respond virtually with text and even with images if you're comfortable enough navigating that. And we'll address both of those here in a bit. So we are going to use this tool here in just a bit to acknowledge our own hopes and fears about digital collaboration. Tracy, are you able to drop that Jamboard link into our chat?
Yep, it's ready.
Awesome. I see that. Thank you so much. So I will go ahead and click on this as well, and you guys should be able to see this. And so once again, we are going to use this tool just real quickly to think about what we hope for ourselves and maybe for our kids for digital collaboration, and what maybe is giving us a little bit of fear or anxiety. Just a real quick orientation to how to navigate Jamboard. If we'll notice on the left-hand side, we see a few icons here. We're going to be using the sticky note button. And so again, you know this, if you hover over something and don't know what it is, it'll tell you what it is. So when I click sticky note, I see that I have like a blank area here. You can go in and change the color of it, whatever you want to do with that. So I'm thinking about like my greatest hope here is maybe I want to eliminate or at least maybe decrease that sense of isolation through student collaboration. And so once I'm satisfied with that, I can click save, and you see it pops right onto that screen for me. I can cancel that in the middle. Oh, I see Tracy. I guess that's Tracy up here, yeah. So she's going to move hers around, and I just wanted to show you that. So you see that little T there, that's for Tracy, and then I'm up here moving around mine as well, so good. To play around with the corners, you know, you can expand it, enlarge it, you can rotate it. And so I don't know if you want to do something aesthetic with your kids, like that would certainly give you the option. So while I'm kind of going over the icons, you guys feel free to go ahead and drop some responses in there. Yeah, and we see some, and again, you feel free to move that around. Real quick, a note about the image that you see here. If you're comfortable with images, if you, maybe you want to use those yourself, if you want to go to, again, that icon on the left, again, just hover over it, it'll say add image. And you see you have the option of just doing a Google search. You can pull something from your drive. So like if you are teaching, Tracy, did you see some of the content areas? I see SPED and RTI Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all.
So that would be a little bit of everything. That would be ELA and math. So there are so many different things that you can do as far as the image with those subjects.
Right. So I could even, I mean, and we'll talk about this with the variety of our tools, but say I have like a math problem that I have pulled online, or maybe I even have it in my own drive. I can pull that in. Let's see, I'm going to do something fairly random here just to say, so I'm going to do a Google search. So if I don't know, I teach, what am I teaching? I'm teaching A Long Walk to Water. I'm talking about natural water sources. I'm just pulling this at random, guys, literally randomly. So I see that, you see it's as simple as that, and then I can kind of move it around. I can resize it, you know, whatever the case may be. And then if I'm working on this and I want to edit it, delete it, or if I want to push it to the front or the back, like behind something, of course, it gives you those options as well. And so I'm just going to get rid of that. Before we move on, we'll take a real quick look and see what we have here. I know you don't need me reading to you, so I'll give you just a moment to look it over, and I'll do the same. See what our hopes and fears are. I'm going to move this one a little bit, Tracy, just so I can see it over my bar. Okay, so it looks like some of our fears might be just maybe navigating all these apps, all this tech. Even as coaches, we had like 82 different emails coming at us all summer for like, try this program or this feature or this vendor. It is really overwhelming. It feels like a dumping ground rather than a place of curation where you can use something really applicable. And so that's part of our hope today, Tracy and myself, that we give you guys something real and quick that you can even use tomorrow if you want to. So thank you guys for being so honest and for participating in that. And this will be something that you continue to have access to. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and navigate back to our slides, and we'll move through this. And so before we move on to the next section, I just want to revisit this idea that the benefit of identifying both our hopes and our fears about collaboration is that acknowledging those concerns while thinking forward to our ultimate collaborative goal, that helps us move toward action and change. So that is, we can anticipate what might impede our progress, what we fear, but we can proactively plan how to overcome that to meet our goal, our hope. And so we'll take this opportunity, and you guys can respond in chat to how you think you might use Jamboard for students in your grade or in your content areas. And so it can be something fairly general, like I'm going to go ahead and drop in exit slips. Maybe I want to use Jamboard for bell ringers or for exit slips. It might be something a little bit more specific, like this makes me think about my time in the ELA in the English classroom, like really anything I would do with butcher paper. This makes me think of whenever we would either choose quotes or let students choose excerpts from a text and plunk it down in the middle of that butcher paper, and then they would write like all around either something that resonated with them, or maybe they are responding to something like how that quote indicates character development, or how it reflects like a common thread of a theme running through. And so those might be some of the ways that you use Jamboard. So Tracy's dropped a suggestion or an idea in here for us. We can respond to the image of a line graph from math. Yeah, thank you so much for pointing that out. So even though we're talking about literacy and the way that we can use these tools, like that does not exclude math, science, social studies, or any other of those content areas. Like you can use an image just as easily for social studies or science as you could for ELA. And so those are just some of the suggestions that we have. Excuse me. And we'll leave that chat. You can continue to drop in there. Thank you, Gwyneth. So they could send questions or problems they're having. That's a great idea in order to help each other. Yeah, because this maybe goes back to one of the fears that we have, that maybe we have some students online especially that don't feel comfortable being very vocal, and so they do just kind of hang back. And that is not necessarily because they have nothing to contribute. That's just not their address within personalized learning. So thank you guys for dropping those great suggestions in there. And please continue to do so. If something occurs to you, even as we progress through here, you drop that in chat because we will revisit that later. So we'll just cap off this section and remind ourselves that Jamboard can be a collaborative learning tool to strengthen not only engagement, but also retention, a lot like the next collaborative tool that Tracy's going to share with us.
Okay, so another one of our collaboration tools, especially helpful during the virtual world that we are. I just dropped a link to this Padlet. So if you'll click on that link, Padlet is very user-friendly. And if you would, we have 4 questions in there. If you will just choose one, and Candace already has a few example responses in there for you, but if you would just choose one and respond, how do you feel about collaboration? What does it look like? What's an experience where collaboration has gone well? These kinds of questions, so reflective questions. So while we are talking about collaboration, we are collaborating on our Padlet. So something else to point out regarding Padlet, and that is that, like Candace mentioned earlier about the likes on social media for teens especially, the students need that validation, and this is a way, and you can set up your Padlet to either give a thumbs up, to give a heart, to just to reaffirm that, or you even as the teacher could respond to them regarding this, that yes, that's exactly what I was thinking too, or having that back and forth, more like a conversation as opposed to a sage on the stage lecture. So this is just one of the other tools that we wanted to show you all. And we'll just take a minute to kind of explore a little bit.
Tracy, thank you for mentioning that you could set this up like so that it'll be reflected like a like or a thumbs up. I didn't realize that whenever we had gotten started in that. And something else that we were thinking about, Tracy and I, as we were developing this, is that a lot of these different collaborative tools that we're looking at, like this is really according to what you want your kids to accomplish, as well as your personal taste, like what you want the layout to look like. So Tracy, you used this one and you did this like kind of like in columns so we could all be beneath it. But I've seen other presenters do this, and it's kind of like for brainstorming, it's kind of all over the place. And so you can see Jamboard and Padlet, like they're really kind of accomplishing something very similar. It just kind of depends upon what your objective is. So again, Tracy, I appreciate you letting us know like the different ways that we can kind of adjust or tweak that.
And again, this was a completely user-friendly. This was my first time going through this. I had been on Padlets before, but it was my first time creating my own, and I was able to do it pretty successfully. So it's not something that needs to be intimidating as far as tech. if students have Chromebooks or something in their hands, this is a 5-minute activity that you can put together in no time.
And Tracy, this is something that they will have access to even beyond this session. Is that the way this is, the Padlet, I mean?
Yes, and Gwen is having trouble getting onto the Padlet. And yes, Gwen, so you'll be able to go to, or you can even just look up on a separate tab, padlet.com, and you can see on Candace's screen what she's projecting, how we are responding to it. So it's very similar to the sticky note activity. So Jamboard and Padlet, kind of similar ideas. One is just organized differently. And in this one, you can respond, give thumbs up, give hearts and things like that. Whereas in the other one, you can add images. So just different strengths, but very similar things where they're responding to each other. So she was having trouble get on. So I don't know if she's at a school. Maybe it's blocking it. I don't know.
Okay. And I noticed that even though like we're getting ready to look into this, it looks like Catherine has gone ahead and she dropped something in chat for us. Like you read our minds or something, Catherine. Thank you for plopping that in there. So she says, way for Padlet, like just a way to keep students engaged.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if they are responding, especially if they're responding using the tech that you have in front of them, I mean, that tech is bought to be used. So and it just, again, it feels more conversational as opposed to just one person speaking and the other people all listening. So this is more interactive for them, keeps them engaged longer. That's the idea. Yeah.
If a student was inappropriate, you could click off of it real quick, right?
Right.
And not that we know any of them. But
that also brings up a good point though, Catherine, that we need to have protocols before we start in protocols on, hey, this is how you're going to respond to your peers and this is how you're not going to respond to your peers. So,
there's one thing that, did you notice, Tracy, a difference with Padlet? Their name's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Jamboard, which I love and is great with teachers, Jamboard, their name doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just something to think about there.
Good.
Absolutely.
Thank you for pointing out those differences, Catherine. Yeah, because again, this kind of goes back to what your objective is. Do you need just like a quick formative assessment, just a quick temperature check, or do you need something maybe with a little bit more accountability? I'm wondering too, I was looking back in chat and I noticed that Gwen she mentioned she's a special education and RTI coach. I'm wondering if we could use Padlet, like if you wanted to set up like even like tiered questions, if you do happen to have like an RTI group where you have like different levels, or maybe even I don't know, it depends upon the building, maybe even have like a tiered group together, but some are working on ELA and some are working on math. I wonder if you could have that Padlet and have the kids able to respond or access that. I'm just trying to think about what might be applicable to the content areas and the grades that we have.
I think that's excellent. In fact, as we go on to our next slide, which is really just a reflective question for us, how might we use Padlet for students?
I'm sorry.
In fact, we could absolutely do that. We could put 3 questions up there, divide the kids in groups and say, group 1, you're going to answer this question. Group 2, you're going to answer this question. Group 3, and then they start responding to each other's questions as they work their way through, kind of like a round robin. So that's one way to utilize grouping, even if we are in a remote setting. Or like you said, Candace, it's one way to differentiate question without it appearing that you're just assigning random groups, and then they get to kind of see other kids' examples before they maybe try the more difficult question. And then that way they have something to respond to. So there are ways to utilize these digital tools to take some of that, I suppose, stress of a child who's kind of struggling a little bit, some of that, to alleviate some of that stress, because they have their peers' example right there as a model for them. So just to this little section, just to kind of cap this off, collaboration is not just for fun, and it's not just to keep the kids engaged. It has several benefits, and those include improving their interpersonal skills, lifting their self-esteem, improving their accountability to you, to themselves, and to each other, but also increasing their retention and their higher order thinking skills. And again, some of that is learned by example. We all know that we learn better from our peers sometimes than we do, just like when we were teens and we learned better from our from our peers. We didn't want to learn from certain people. So it's a good way to alleviate the stress, but also allow students some freedom in response and to learn from each other. So we have another activity, and this one is probably very common to everybody. It's just the Google comment feature, especially if you're a Google Classroom type school and you use Google Classrooms. So if we could access this link here, I'll drop it in the chat.
I think I got that in there for you.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Okay, great. Already finished.
Tracy, do you want me to leave this on your instructions, or do you want me to project the actual Google Doc?
The actual Google Doc is great, yes.
Okay.
So what we are doing is we're just basically looking at a live document, and we have 3 columns. These, in the first column, are some things that we would have done with our kids had we been in the classroom with them. Think, pair, share, turn and talk, that kind of thing. Jigsaw, you know, I see, I think, I wonder. So several different activities that we would have probably used had we been face-to-face with our kids can still be applicable in online. So if you will just take an opportunity to read the prompt at the top of the second column and on the top of the third column, and just throw a response in there. It doesn't have to be to everyone, just so you could just take a moment to look at that. Another cool feature about Google, and this would be great even if as the teacher you're responding to your students or they can respond to each other, is the comment feature. And that's the little plus button at the top of the screen. And Candace already has an example of a comment put in here. But again, this is a live document, and especially if you use Google as your learning management system, you can send this out to your students all at once so that the entire group of 30 kids gets it and they can interact with each other. Or you can assign different groups, different copies of, you could put them all together in the end. But in fact, Candace and I use this comment feature a lot. We drop comments to each other, and that way, if we are not both on the document at the very same time, and she has a question, I see it when I sign on and vice versa. So again, this is something that probably all schools are familiar with now, the Google Docs, but it also works for Google Sheets and Google Slides. So the little comment feature, and that's just one way to be collaborative. And you, even as the teacher, can respond to them, yes, I like this idea. Yes, this is a great point, that kind of thing. So the interpersonal skills and accountability are particularly important when students collaborate on a live document. So again, we just want to say that certain rules and recommendations need to be set up ahead of time before they open a live document to. I mean, we just don't want to open it up and give it to all 30 without any guidelines. So, but it's a fairly simple opportunity to use. So the slide that she's showing you now shows our live document. And she's showing you how to put in that comment, which I think we're all familiar. And again, you can get back to some of these documents if you want to rewatch any of the things that she's walked you through step by step. You could also go back and rewatch this and or look through the slides again. So again, just another reflection. How might this be utilized? Now this one's wide open because you could have kids create slideshows and share it with a partner and have them comment on their partner's slideshow. Yes, I like this image. No, I don't. That kind of thing. This one, I mean, any subject. This is applicable to any subject because you could share a Google Doc with math problems in it. You could, and they could comment to each other. So this truly can go across the board. So Candace is going to just kind of recap some of our strategies, some that we spoke about today and some further strategies that you can use for digital collaboration. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy, for walking us through that. Like she said, these links that we're looking at right here, whereas it's a hyperlink and you can't access it through this session right now, but John has uploaded a PDF for us on our website. And so you'll be able to click through these and find the specific protocol instructions for these if you want. And again, these are listed on the bibliography as well that Tracy has provided for us at the end of this slide deck. This is just kind of, she's harvested some of the quicker ones for us. Like these are things you could just like drop into a lesson plan tomorrow if you had to. And so this will work with any digital platform, but there are also strategies both for traditional and remote classrooms. So we should be able to use this with even like with our hybrid settings that we have. So as we're concluding this mini session on digital collaboration, we'll take time to reflect and respond in chat to one or more of these prompts. So you can look through rose, thorn, bud, and again, you can choose one to respond to. You can do all three if you're just feeling really ambitious today. But in essence, the rose is, this is something that you've been exposed to today in today's mini session where you're like, yes, I will try that tomorrow, or I will try that sometime this week. A thorn is something that you might need a little bit more support, a little bit more training, a tutorial, you need a little bit more help with this. And then a bud is something that has piqued your curiosity that you want to know more about. And so we'll give you a minute or so to drop something in chat for a rose, thorn, or a bud. Again, a rose is something that stuck with you today that you feel like, I could probably try that immediately. A thorn, you need a little bit of help on this. A bud, something you want to experience just a little bit. Awesome. Thank you for dropping that into chat, both Catherine and Tracy. And so this, again, this is a protocol, quick protocol that we can use. I'll say protocol, it's a quick activity we can use with our kids. And it is, even though we're doing this at the end, it is formative because it's letting you reflect upon your learning, but it's also helping Tracy and me as we think forward to what further support we want to offer you all. So we appreciate you guys dropping those things in chat. That lets us know how to reflect and again, how that is going to inform our instruction as we continue to deliver to you guys. And so that chat again is going to be available throughout. So you feel free to continue dropping things in there if you like. But in the meantime, I'll go ahead and let Tracy close us.
So we started this session with our goals, and that's how we want to end the session. Just to kind of recap that we have explored some brain science behind collaborative activities in the classroom and or remote learning. We have experienced, as if we were the students ourselves, we've experienced 4 or 5 different collaborative strategies that are easily implementable this week. So, and then last, we have selected some collaborative activities with peers, content, and concepts. Obviously, we don't want you to do these all at once. We want you to find what you're comfortable with and then start with that. And then you can add more as you go. This slide right here is literally just all the resources compiled into one slide. So this may be something that you'd like to access later. And it gives you the link for Padlet and Jamboard. And it also gives you the link to brain science. But it also gives you some tools and things that you can use if you are in a remote learning setting, which we found was that information is paramount right now. So feel free to access this again through the Rural Life website, through the QR code, or if you need to reach out to one of us, we are happy to do that. But the same website that you've researched today is the same one that you would find this. So if you will take it, it will greatly help us if you will just take a 1-minute survey and let us know what you thought about the session, what are some future things that you would like to see in sessions, and just give us your overall response. It's very brief. And this basically ends, like Candace said, ends the actual session, but we will stick around and we are going to do a little Q&A afterwards. So I believe John has already dropped the chat box. It's the tiny URL. If you'll just click on that, you should be able to go and take the very quick survey. And if you'd like to stick with us for Q&A or discussion session, we'll go from there.